There's a quote that says, no one is more honest in society than, a guy with a couple of drinks in him or, a baby. And, I find it a pretty interesting quote. There's a quote by Manly Hallmaid where he said something similar. He said, no one is more honest than primitive man. A primitive man is disgustingly honest, right? It's almost disgustingly honest. And it kind of makes you question whether honesty really is, kind of what people need to hear at the time, right? Because, in my opinion, when people tend to lie, it tends to kind of be a lot more harmful than it is helpful, right? When a baby kind of is completely honest in their opinion, giving out their opinions to people, sometimes it really does help people when you kind of tell them the truth about themselves, right? Because awareness is the first step in change, right? If you tell someone that they're overweight, they need to be aware that it is true in order to take the next steps in order to change. If they're not aware that the problem exists, then they are unwilling to take the next steps to change. And it's worth noting that they refer to alcohol as a truth serum. I think, and it's funnily enough, when you drink alcohol, alcohol tends to lower stress hormones to an extent. And I think alcohol tends to kind of remove the mask we put on for society, right? Now, to live in a modern civilization, we all need to make compromises in terms of, to function and all that. But, for the most part, everyone in society walks around with a mask. And sometimes it doesn't help you to have a mask on. Sometimes you kind of need to remove the mask and let people what you truly believe about themselves and what you truly perceive them to be. Because awareness is the first step in order to change, in order to evolve, to make people aware of that it exists, right? So it's worth noting that when you meet someone who's is extremely honest, primitive man, right? A baby has not been taught the rules of society to suppress themselves. Primitive man has not been taught the rules of society to express themselves. When you meet a guy in one of these tribes in third world countries, they have not been taught the rules of society and to suppress themselves. They tend to be brutally honest and give you their opinions on each matter and what they believe of you. And this can actually be extremely helpful in your personal development and in your development in life in general, because the first step in evolution, the first step in change, the first step of growth is literally awareness about yourself. Awareness about who you are, what your life purpose is. And once you're aware, you can take the necessary steps to change and develop. So it's something to think about. And, it's something that really stresses the importance of constructive criticism. And, the truth shall set you free, as the Bible says. The truth shall set you free. And the truth is extremely important for your own self-development.